hesitate to just spend a second at least on the fact that the backdrop today is very good because the PPI shows you once again that we're back at a level that is totally sustainable in terms of if you didn't want inflation. And the oscillator is still minus 2.2. So it's kind of perfect.
Yeah, we'll see CPI tomorrow. Of course, we need the inflation data to be held in check so that the Fed is able to lower rates as they're also mindful of the jobs market as well. So, yeah, you're seeing yields fall, 10-year yield back under 3.9. Maybe that's supporting some of the housing-related stocks. Home Depot we'll talk about too. But I think we have to get to the story of the day, that being Starbucks. Yeah, CEO change, Luxman Narasimhan out.
This is a demonstration, can I just say, this is a demonstration of our decision to say it's not the franchise, it's the leader.
Right.
And I came about that, obviously, I had an interview that was very, very difficult on CNBC that had a lot to do with a quarter that was the worst versus expectations I have ever seen. And believe me, I'm not the only one who saw it. I think the board saw it, and the board recognized, and maybe through Howard, maybe not. Howard still has a number of friends. Howard was very unhappy with it. But what I want to say is everyone was. You don't oust a guy and just say, hey, goodbye, if you just made him CEO recently. But someone called Brian Niccol, who is the best, and Brian Niccol from Chipotle. And Brian Niccol said, I'll take it.
Yeah.
And Brian Niccol loves Chipotle. This is such a big deal. Brian Niccol is one of the most impressive CEOs I happen to love the guy. I love the guy. And this was amazing.
Yeah, stock's up about almost before today, 800% since Niccol took over years ago.
It came in when there was the big airborne problem, the illness problem.
Yeah,
he
virus.
Solved that. He solved so much.
Well, he's got Howard Schultz's stamp of approval. He was quoted in the press release saying he's the leader the company needs right now. And interestingly enough, so there's two activists involved right now at Starbucks, and Elliot's involvement was one of the reasons why we recently added to our position, upgraded the stock back to a 1. But what's interesting here is that this decision to hire Niccol came without the direction of the activists.
Not yet. My understanding is the activists played very little role.
Yeah.
I think that when I look at the board, there's some people obviously who are very busy, who are good people. Mike Sievert is a great guy at T-Mobile, but he's working at T-Mobile for heaven's sake. He got his handful. Melody Hobson, obviously this morning, very much wanted to do it. Howard militating did matter because they know he's good. Now you have a guy like Rich Allison, the Domino's guy, who was let go. We told that he took early retirement, Domino's. You don't have the Bimbo guy from Mexico, who's a very important executive. Maybe played a role. Bimbo being a huge bread company. But there was no one that I looked at on the board where it jumped out at me and said, this person is going to push out Luxman. But therefore, it makes me feel like it was a real combined effort.
So you have Baird upgrades Starbucks to a buy, the outperform, price target of 110. You have Piper Sandler upgrades Starbucks. Wedbush, on the other hand, says maybe the enthusiasm's premature. Well, it's up 22%. This is a magnificent move.
Look, if you want to flip, I'm not going to hold anybody who, if you bought it at the same time that we did that last buy, you want to flip some, that's fine. I'm not going to tell people not to, but I will point out this, okay? Chipotle was a moribund, some people thought finished organization after they had the incredible problems with what in the West and the East, norovirus, and it was just awful. And no one thought it could be resuscitated. And if you look, Niccol just didn't flinch. Why? He didn't flinch because he told me over and over again, we have a great franchise and people will stick with it. And look, I was in the restaurant business. Now my wife's in the liquor business. Can't own both. And I always spent a lot of time talking to Brian. And I would go home and tell my wife, we got to do this. We got to do that. We got to do this. His touch.
He's the best.
Monumental.
He is the best of the best.
Best of the best.
But what do you do if you own Chipotle? So obviously not a club name, but I know this was a stock that's been really tossed out for the last couple months.
Right. Now, I was glad to see that Jack Hartow was going to stay on. Yeah, he was going to retire. Jack is fantastic. That will encourage, this is why it's so important. Jack will encourage a really good person to emerge as the CEO. So the answer is if you're selling it now, what you really should be selling it for is they couldn't raise price in California. And it made people worried that maybe we finally reached the price that you can't take a burrito for more or chicken al pastor more. So that is a worrisome thing. But I'm by no means saying that. I'm not saying Brian Niccol left because of that. I am saying that also you had a tremendous churning after you did that gigantic split, and there's just still a lot of stock for sale because of the split.
Yeah.
But I want to make it clear to everybody that that Chipotle needs to go below this level where it basically was before. It's got to come in a little bit lower because Brian Niccol is worth more. Brian Niccol, if it's up, I don't know, 17 billion now on Starbucks, there should be more of a decline than just 6%.
Yeah, it is interesting watching the two. Obviously, I mean, Niccol was as great of a hire as you could possibly
I can't believe he took the job. I can't believe it.
It was shocking when the news came out.
Yeah.
Let's move to Palo Alto. So they report next Monday. A couple mixed notes today. So you have Mizuho, very positive. They raised the price target to 380, saying checks indicate an uptick in demand for the first time in several quarters. Morgan Stanley, on the other hand, they are overweight, but they're saying maybe not a buyer. They ahead of earnings only because the stock has had a huge run lately, and maybe with guidance coming out, maybe they're conservative. So maybe you don't see big revisions to estimates.
I think that if Nikesh Arora wants to go there and talks about CrowdStrike and talks about the inquiries he had, talks about what he did with United Health, which is a really bad breach that we're all still suffering from, I think we'll get a sense that the platformization is working, and he's also getting the call. He gets the call now and not George Kurtz and CrowdStrike. Now, CrowdStrike is an amazing company, and there's only been a couple, like Delta was really the only one that I understand publicly he was upset about. Yeah. But there's got to be some that just say, listen, let's hedge our bets. Let's call the cash, see what's going on.
Yeah, we'll see what's coming into earnings next week. And then why don't we wrap with Nvidia making a huge move yesterday, another one today. Morgan Stanley, they're doing their supply chain AI checks. They're saying the Blackwell chip schedule largely unchanged. Maybe
a couple of weeks.
Delayed.
I mean, the publication, the information said that all these companies would be impacted. Suppliers.
Yeah,
I thought it was a shameless. I really didn't like it. Now, look, I've been a journalist since 1977. Okay, and it was bad journalism. It was just bad journalism.
I know UBS was saying yesterday, yes, there might be a delay, but it's just going to get filled with more
H100, where the margins are even bigger. Now, I also want to point out that Jonathan Gray, who's the president of Blackstone, has a gigantic position in a data center company and in a company that is a customer of Nvidia. And he told me that their business is booming.
Right.
And he says he sees no sign of it ending. Another reason to be in Nvidia.
Broadcom's hired AMD, but also you could, Eaton. Obviously, that's
Dover only 5%. I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. It's only 5% data center, but I got Tainus. Yeah. But Eaton does have a substantial electric business that's connected with data center and the grid, which we know are some of the weakest areas of the economy.
All right,
not weak, meaning business. Weak in terms of needing infrastructure.
Why don't we move to the rapid fire next? Start off with Home Depot. They did lower its full year comp sales.
Now Home Depot, you buy Home Depot for a rate cut. I mean, so it's like ridiculous that this stock was down 15. That's just a knucklehead thing to do. You need what's called history.
On Holdings, better than expected quarter, but only maintains
the stock was down
50.
It was up 6%, then down 15%. That was the shorts pressing it down, and now up 4%. It was a remarkably good quarter. The company's conservative.
Baxter selling its kidney care business for $3.78
Baxter's a disaster. Anything that they do shows me that maybe they're still alive.
Hormel upgraded by its Citi.
I mean, Hormel has had mediocre numbers for a little bit now, and I see no real solution there because remember, last time I talked about the food stocks and the problems that they have with GLP-1, and this would be one.
And we're seeing good action in the semis today, but Citi says there might be some near-term risk to Micron's estimates on a little build-up in inventory.
Now, remember, Sanjay Mehrotra checked in with me, and that's when he restarted his buyback. He wasn't telling me time to buy, but I like someone who's buying back. Now, AMD should have been hurt by that, but it wasn't. And I regard AMD, I don't know if we can see the chart, but maybe this is the level that AMD finally stabilizes. There had been a fear that Intel's been dumping PC chips, okay? And that has hurt their margins. That's what's been moving it down. I say stay the course, okay? And I'm going to discuss that tomorrow when we have our club meeting. If you're doing the Home Depot, remember, Home Depot is the stock to buy at this point in the sector and cycle. And you know who else is not far behind it? Stanley Black
and Decker. Yeah, I know you profiled it last night.
Absolutely,
on that money.
Absolutely. These things
repair remodeling.
Look, there's very little advantage to getting old. But one of them is you've seen every cycle and traded them since 1979. And this one's just textbook.
Well, you need transactions, right? Back,
housing's
housing
based on
transactions
transactions.
back and mortgage rates going down.
Right.
certainly
You
helps
don't
that.
feel like going and getting something from Shark Ninja or getting some carpet or getting windows if you know that you can't. The idea is that you want to spend on the house if you're going to stay there. That's AZEC. And you're going to spend on the house if you're going to dress it up to be sold. But either case, they're selling.
Right.
And when they sell, the selling is the event that causes the renovation and the remodeling. So it's very bullish. This is Jim Cramer.